I think the main thing is to allow yourself, as scary as it might be, to be open. You're open because it's an adventure to try something new. So if you're just trying, you're not committing. It's not scary. It's not daunting. You're just trying this new class or this new friend that you might have met, this new food. And the more good stuff that you kind of like let into your life, the more you let go without even realizing. You let go of the toxic stuff, the friends that are toxic, the habits that are toxic. You'll start to let go of those other bad habits, and you'll start to let go of the bad food, and you'll realize that slowly but surely you'll have filled your life full of all these good things and things that are making you feel much better inside and out.
Welcome to the Powerplantbody podcast. This is a project that centers around interviews with people who are affecting change in their local and global communities through conscious movement and exercise, mental, emotional, and spiritual work, and plant-based nutrition and lifestyle practices. Kim Cavell is an actress, a filmmaker, a plant-based athlete, and she's currently studying to be a holistic nutritionist. Kim is an incredibly insightful human being, and our conversation led down many paths, touching on many important subjects. We spoke about the importance of bringing play back into your life, of not giving into fear and pursuing the things that you enjoy, how diet can affect every part of your experience. We talk about Kim's definition of a holistic approach to diet and lifestyle and what it's done for her own life, and how a person can and should stay open to all the amazing possibilities that are already in their life, but they're likely just not seeing them. Now, I got a lot out of my conversation with Kim, and I know that you will as well. So without any further delay, I bring you Kim Cavell. Yeah, you're a lot of things. You're an actress, a filmmaker, an athlete, and soon to be a holistic nutritionist. But the acting and filmmaking has been in your life for a long time. So I'd like to know when all that started for you and how you got into it.
Well, it's been in my life a long time now, but it certainly hasn't been a childhood kind of thing. I grew up as a lot of people do. I grew up in a small town in the UK, and I didn't really have anybody who I knew that was interested in that kind of business, or certainly didn't work in it. But I remember somebody came to our school for kind of a motivational careers kind of talk thing, and she worked at the BBC, and the way she described her childhood was very much like mine. A lot of like kind of playing, a lot of storytelling, and a lot of watching movies, watching TV. So I could kind of relate to that, and I thought, yeah, that sounds really interesting. That's the only thing that's really sparked my attention. And I think I must have been about 15 or something at that point. And when I kind of tried to pursue the small town media courses that they even offered, it was definitely shut down by the people in my school. So I kind of went on to kind of apply to do a business degree and kind of just put that dream like in a little box and just ignored it. And then kind of last minute before the course, I switched to do media production. And I studied media production for about 6 or 7 months. And then 6 or 7 months into it, I'd been put on an email subscription list to a acting school over here. And it was one of those things that I never thought that I would ever end up doing. Mainly, how would I move across, countries, and how would I afford that? All these kind of limiting factors. And then when I kind of got this email, it was for an open audition down in London. So I kind of just went to see what that was about. I'd started taking acting classes alongside my production degree, and just kind of fallen in love with it. So I went down with kind of just an open mind about what it might be, kind of just for the experience, really. And I ended up getting a place with a talent scholarship over here. And yeah, so from there, I actually just, I stopped doing my degree so I could work full time. I actually worked as a chef before I moved out here. And then since I moved out here, I studied, and then I stayed produced a couple of short films, and I wrote a feature film about 4 years ago now, and it's been in and out of development, and it's hopefully coming to the end of its development now because I have a writing partner, and it's just come on leaps and bounds. So I'm hoping, we're in 2019 now, I'm hoping for 2020 to shoot the feature film. So
that sounds exciting. Something that jumped out to me when you're talking about all that is what brought you into, or what got your gears turning for acting and directing and being behind the camera in the first place, which was play. It seemed like it was playful, and there's a lot, myself included, a lot of people that could do with more play in their lives, I think.
Yeah, I could not agree more. I think I can't speak for everybody, but when I really talk to people, especially much older than me, we all kind of experience that same teenage angst where you stop doing the things that you might love because it might not be cool, or you might not fit in with your friends or whatever. Luckily, I had quite sporty friends, so I continued to play sports all through high school. But I definitely lost that element of fun and games and adventure. And you kind of, especially in the public school system, you kind of mold yourself into, and this goes along with kind of putting a pin on your dreams. You just mold into whatever you're supposed to be, or you think you're supposed to be. So it would be, I grew up a very kind of active, very tomboy, liked watching action movies, playing, play fighting and stuff like that. And obviously into my teens, that kind of diminished because it just wasn't what a teenage girl should do, I suppose. And then as you grow a little bit older and, life throws you some curveballs or whatever, you realize what's important. And I feel like a lot of people end up going back to kind of how they were as a kid. The things that interested me as a kid interest me now. If you could say, hey, I mean, this sounds really bizarre, but if you could say, hey, let's go climb some trees and watch a movie and play soccer and eat nice food and laugh a lot and spend time with your loved ones. I'm like, they're all the things that I would do as a kid, and I would love to do them now. Do you know what I mean? So I think, I think a lot is lost in those kind of teenage years, I suppose.
So you mentioned that you've created a couple short films. You're in the process of finishing up your feature film. So why do you create the content you do? Why do you spend all that time and energy creating those short films and now this feature film? What would you say inspires you? And what would you say was the moment, or was there a light bulb moment, or was it several things along the way?
I wouldn't say there's been a couple of light bulb moments. So I don't think there was ever, like I say, I didn't grow up going, I'm going to be this one thing. I never really knew. I realized over several years of kind of, I would watch a movie and I would want to be that person. And then I would really identify with that person. And I remember watching Back to the Future. And after I watched that movie, all I wanted to do was skateboard, turn my jeans up, wear, Converse and stuff. And every time I would watch a James Bond movie, I would want to play spy and stuff like that. But I never really thought anything of those things. I just thought that was childhood, to be left in childhood. And to be honest, I think one of the main factors was when I was 16, my dad passed away. And he was a very talented photographer, and he never pursued it properly. And he would always tell me that how important it was to, pursue your dreams, but kind of just ignore the BS. There's going to be a lot of people telling you no. There's going to be a lot of people telling you can't. And one of the reasons why he didn't pursue something that he was very, very talented at was because people kind of, shut him down a little bit. So I think after that, I really started to evaluate what was important to me, what I enjoyed doing. And it was definitely then that I realized that's something I enjoyed doing. And the more that I experimented at home with a video camera, just even filming little scenes out by myself, because I didn't have like a bunch of friends who were interested in that kind of thing. And just writing, I realized how much I enjoy it. And that enjoyment then grew into, what am I, that is a big passion, but like on a bigger scale. And everybody has like a bigger scale. They have their passion, which is hopefully, what they end up doing. But the biggest scale for me is like, is the main thing that would really inspire me is, how can we, what is our purpose, in life? And I know a lot of people might say that, but I think about that a lot. How can I, change the world, leave it slightly better than when I came into it? And specifically, I like to really focus on and gear towards, and I'm really inspired by, female-driven films, LGBTQ films, a lot to do with, human rights and stuff like that. I'm all for entertainment too, 1000%. But those are the things that really, like, I suppose, inspire me. And they're the films that I'm kind of drawn to. I have noticed that my taste in films is kind of sometimes a little dark, sometimes a little dramatic. Some people might describe me as as sensitive, I think. So I'm definitely somebody who lives sometimes in their emotions, and film is kind of an outlet, both by creating it and both by enjoying it. So when I go to watch a movie, to just sit there and be completely in their world, not only does it sometimes take away from, a bad day or something like that, and maybe entertain you, but it can also inspire the rest of your day, your week. Ultimately it could be your life. I know that sounds dramatic, but art does really inspire people to do bold things. And I think I would like to give certain groups that I mentioned just now more of a voice, and to feel represented without basically becoming a caricature, which I think has happened sometimes in the past with those groups.
Well, working as an actor and a director and producer, so in front of the lens and behind the lens, and as an entertainment form too, being in the theater and watching movies, especially the ones that you're talking about, the ones that are maybe under the radar a bit more, not big box office hits, but have a lot of dramatic effect and a lot of connection to the audience. You're essentially dissecting the human condition. What it means to experience the full spectrum of human emotions. So someone who involves themselves in that work as much as you do, I'd love to know if you've come away with any big insights about the human condition, about the spectrum of emotions and what it means to be human.
I think, like most things, whether it's the human condition, our relationships, our mental state, I found personally, and maybe I'm the exception, maybe I'm the rule. I think that's what I'm figuring out still. But I suppose how I feel, I would say that we all kind of live our lives with this story that we tell ourselves, whether it is about ourselves, whether it's about what people might think about us, whether it's about what's going on in the world, what should we be doing, the big questions that we ask each other, that we'll ask ourselves, and we're constantly kind of searching for. And I think we spend our lives sometimes searching for something that truly doesn't really exist. Because if you talk to somebody who has done it all, they've lived the kind of life that maybe you might dream of. They've achieved certain things. They've been everywhere. And they might be well into their 80s or their 90s, and they're still figuring themselves out. And I think the confusion is And I think this is where sometimes, and I'm guilty of it too, we become a little unhealthy in the way that we're always searching for the next thing. And I read somewhere that happiness is kind of like a pendulum. And although we might think that true happiness is this like amazing life, this day at Disneyland, this millions of dollars in your bank account, this crazy, amazing lifestyle, or whatever you think might make you happy. But it's actually not, because as soon as anything might alter that situation, your pendulum will fall, and it will go right back up to the other side, which is the complete opposite, which is, depression and anxiety and negative thoughts and, feeling trapped. And I read that happiness is truly in the middle, where it's at the bottom and it's just swaying a little bit left to right. And I think that's what we all need to kind of figure out. And that's not that. Even the problem is knowing it doesn't always make it so. So I know that, but I still find myself sometimes reaching to the top of the pendulum that I might want, and sometimes even experiencing the bad side of the pendulum as well. And I think that goes back to and links quite easily to things like social media. Like we're living in a world now where you can fake how you look, you can fake your life. And as much as we're all smart enough to know that, okay, that doesn't look real, or I don't believe that, there's something, I think, rooted in our like natural instinct, or, whatever it might be, where we see something, and if it's not how we want it to be, or it's how we perceive it, that is how it is. Even if we know in our head, okay, yeah, that person, they can't live that life every day, or, that's their best day of their life that they're posting. It's not their worst day, right? Even though we know that, it still constantly seems to affect us. And now it's been kind of given a new beast of an outlet, which is social media. And there's a lot of, I love social media. There's a lot of positivity to come out of it, but it does also highlight that longing for something else, that searching for something, that comparison thing. And the thing that kind of gets me is that we all know better, but we don't. Somehow our bodies and minds, and maybe our souls or whatever, they're not connected enough that we can kind of read past that and see to a higher level. And I've noticed that if you really do seek out people who are just on another level with that stuff, it can really positively impact, your life and how you see things, and maybe how seriously you take life or don't.
Yeah, you touched on a couple things there that really drive a lot of meaning to me, really hit home with me, I should say. One in particular is, the idea of contrast, a pendulum that you spoke about. Think about any good film that you've seen in the theater, and the reason why it's so good is because it has a contrast of human emotions. Right when you're at the peak of happiness or joy, you're contrasted by some tragedy or something that takes you out of that element, and you're experiencing again that spectrum of human emotions. Without the good, you wouldn't be able to experience the bad, and without the bad, you wouldn't be able to experience the good. I think there's a lot to what you just said with the social media, where if you're looking at social media and it's making you think, oh, my life is terrible, maybe it's an opportunity to reflect on the moments or the parts of your life that maybe, you would like to change, but how they also really highlight the parts of your life that are going well. When you do have those moments of joy, or when you go hang out with friends or see your family or go to an event that you really enjoy, how much more enjoyable those are because of, the areas that maybe you're actively working on to improve.
Yeah, completely. And like in terms of films, obviously we go wanting, nobody, I read somewhere that nobody wants to actually watch real life. We all think that we do, But I don't know how many people truly do. And when I think maybe where lines get kind of blurred is we go and seek entertainment, and it is entertainment, even if it is a, informative or groundbreaking, it's still entertainment. It is the entertainment industry. And we seek these highs and these lows, the lows of horror films and, depression and really dark parts of people's lives. And then the highs of what, we kind of dream of or whatever. And I think that's a perfect outlet to do that and to experiment with that. I've found that, especially with writing and acting, if you're experiencing kind of I don't know where I'm at right now. I don't know if it's just me, but sometimes I can wake up and I don't know if I'm happy or sad or in between. And I think we've been bombarded with information, and it's not even just from social media, it's from our whole lives of parents and teachers and peers kind of being like, are you happy? Are you 10 out of 10? Did you hit a home run? Did you, and you're supposed to constantly be in this like euphoric happiness part of the pendulum. And I don't think we're really taught how to just be still and just be like content with the present and what is going on. And I've noticed that if I'm feeling unsure of, am I happy or am I sad right now? I've no idea. Kind of giving that an outlet through writing and acting, and experiencing basically both sides of the pendulum, whether it's a dramatically happy scene in a film of love or triumph, or it is if I'm writing a really depressing short story where, it's really dark and deep, that actually allows me to come back to reality in my own life and kind of sit in the pendulum in the middle. But I think what the line that's maybe getting blurred now is because entertainment is everywhere. It's like, it's not just music, it's not just art, it's not just film, it's commercials are entertaining now. They're not like how they used to be, like commercials used to be somebody stood there like, hi, buy my margarine. Now they're like a whole short film. You go to the gas station, there's a commercial playing while you pump your gas. You go into Instagram and Facebook, and like, for instance, social media used to be about, sharing photos and stuff, but it was kind of like connecting with friends, talking with friends, little group chats. I grew up on, like a little bit of MySpace, but there was MSN chat, which was just talking back and forth. It wasn't about showing off what was going on in your life kind of thing. And now it's become it's about connecting, but it's connecting in an entertainment way, whether that be factual entertainment of tutorials or this and that, or literal, skits and what Vine used to be and stuff like that was pure entertainment. But because the line is a little bit blurry about, well, is this real entertainment or, is this real life that's just kind of being documented, or is it, purely entertainment? And I think we struggle to decipher that. So we think that when we watch these things, that this high euphoric happiness and this deep, dark depression are the only two feelings that we can feel. And I think we've lost the ability to be content in kind of like in a medium.
Yeah. It's a perfect segue because it's a holistic approach to life, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, completely. Like I say, I'm very new to the course, but I went into it with I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of research about nutrition. I care very much about what is good for me and my family's bodies and things like that. And some things will trip me up, like we spoke about. Something like soy is a very controversial subject. It has a lot of people kind of battling against it and for it and this and that. But um, with what I found is, even just from the first book that I've begun studying, is all the other aspects that I didn't even, my mind has already been so much more expanded to more things that include health. And you see these posts on Instagram and they are very accurate. And I already knew this, that, your diet, as people say, not a diet, but the diet that you consume isn't just food and water or food and drink. It is, your friends. It is the stuff you're watching, the stuff you're reading, the stuff you're listening to and taking in. And I didn't know how much of that would be touched on from this course, but it already has come just to show me some new lights about not only myself, just about the world around me. And it's definitely put me in a kind of a humbling position, which is really nice.
You think about the state of things right now. You mentioned that commercials have changed, entertainment has changed. Just, I wouldn't say our values have changed, but maybe the way that those are represented to us has changed. When you think about all those things, what does nutrition mean to you? What does good nutrition mean to someone who's actively seeking it out to change, make that change in their life?
Well, I think it can come from kind of two places. It can come from a fixing place or a preventative place. But I mean, you hope that either scenario is kind of trying to get to the same place, which is, for me, I mean, I'll touch on like how I guess became what I would call plant-based or vegan, but it came from like a health point of view. So that's how I would probably call myself plant-based more so than vegan, because I went into it with with health in mind. And as much as at that time, I personally wasn't in a good, healthy mental state. And I definitely did change my body, but it took a long time for my mindset to change. And this is also how I feel about creating content. Yes, I want to be part of, giving people ideas and giving people inspiration and recipes and things that can really work. But it's also about, for me, mindset. And I'm sure you can fully agree with me in this, whether it's your workouts, whether it's your career, whether it's your love life, and nutrition. It's a lot of mindset. I don't want to be eating really healthy. Nutrition to me isn't a healthy, balanced eating and drinking schedule. It's everything. It's, like I just said, it's everything that you're consuming and how it deeply does affect one another. If you look at something like how your emotions will affect your digestion, that's kind of an obvious one that most people have experienced, whether they're aware of it or not. If you really sit and think about how, there's such a thing as a gut feeling. And if you've ever felt guilty about anything, you'll feel it in your gut. You might not even be able to eat, or you won't be able to stomach certain foods. I find things like that fascinating. And for me, the goal is for myself and to share with others, finding, that healthy circle to stay in, where you get to like play a little bit and have some of the things you might want and stuff, but knowing that inside there that it's safe. It's safe for you mentally, it's safe for you physically. You're going to achieve your goals. Maybe when you're really focused and dialed in, you might achieve certain goals that you won't on the outer edges of the circle, for example, whether that's physical goals, whether it's a mental clarity, whatever it might be. But just kind of creating that circle, and everybody's circle is slightly different. And it's learning about what works for you. And also for me at this point now, having started taking this course, learning what it is for other people. Because I am very passionate, and I'm very much behind plant-based nutrition and fitness. But I'm sure there are cases, and I don't know if you follow certain social media, but there's been certain cases that have come out this year of people who physically have benefited from eating a piece of fish and eating an egg with a lot of evidence that you can't really tell anybody else how their body is working. I think we all know that for the most part, high levels of fruit and vegetables, high levels of leafy greens, getting your water in as long as it has enough minerals and high mineral content. And, no one's arguing those things. But for me, what I'm discovering is what is everybody's safe little circle where they can achieve their goals, live their life, and actually take it on for a lifetime, not just be inspired one day, make a nice meal, and then, this sounds really bad, but I grew up and my dad was, I never really thought about it, but looking back, he was very unhealthy. And sadly, he did pass away from a heart attack. And this is just kind of like a modern day representation of what the state of affairs with nutrition is now. The doctor kind of asked him to lower his blood pressure and stuff like this and cholesterol by eating less red meat, eating more white meat, and and taking in less salt. So I think he bought low sodium salt or something. He still smoked cigarettes. He still drank alcohol. And those things weren't even really touched on by the doctor. And I just find that, incredible. That, and not that everybody's like that, but people are, to an extent, kind of looking for that quick fix. They want their life, but they don't want it to change that too much. For me, what I'm looking to do is kind of, for myself and for others, help overhaul how you really see yourself, how you see your diet, how you see your workout, how you see your life, your goals, your mindset, all those things, because they're way more intertwined than I was taught growing up. I think now we're thankfully in the midst of all this madness, which is kind of going on in the world. There's also, in a positive light, there's also a lot of information. Sometimes that can be a problem as well, but I think we're starting to become more aware of how affected by our nutrition, how nutrition can affect, it can affect your goals, it can affect your relationships, your careers. If you have kids, certain types of food are going to affect how they feel and their mood and stuff like that. And it really does it can change your life. I know that me living a much healthier lifestyle than I used to has completely changed my life and how I treat myself, how I treat other people, how I view my goals and how I view my priorities and principles and values and things. It affects all aspects of your life.
Yeah, there's that saying that how you do anything is how you do everything. And I think probably one of the strongest beliefs I have is that, in order for someone to be able to love the world around them, fully and with as much passion as they can, they have to love the world within them. And I think a good part of that love starts with, giving yourself the nutrition and feeding yourself with food that's going to, allow for that.
Yeah. And whether people are aware of it or not, and to different extremes, if you're not doing those things, you are basically being self-destructive. It is a form of self-harm. That sounds dramatic, but it really isn't. And if that sounds dramatic for me, somebody who's like incredibly unhealthy, on their deathbed unhealthy, that kind of self-destructive behavior will affect quite clearly your whole life. And I think, the slightly older I've got, you kind of realize the people who you want around you are those people who, even if they're not completely there yet, they're looking to improve themselves, and thus they can help the world around them. And I've noticed that the people who might, and we all have bad days. I don't think anybody being negative one day means they're a negative person. But there are people who have a negative outlook on everything. And I think we've all, maybe not, but I feel like I've had moments in my life where I felt negative. And the two things that, honestly, and this sounds so made up, like I plan to say this, the two things that, when I think about it, that have pulled me out of those things is a good kind of routine in terms of health, whether that's, it's sleep, it's the water that you're drinking, the food that you're eating, the workout that you're doing, not just workout, just basically moving your body and being active and getting your heart rate up. And the other things that I'm consuming are literally what I'm watching, what I'm watching, what I'm reading, what I'm writing, and then obviously your relationships. But the two main things that can pull me out of anything, if I'm alone in the whole world and there's nobody, there's not my mom telling me she loves me or whatever, there's nobody. The two things that pull me out of it are kind of like basically my nutrition. What I would say nutrition is the whole package, and what I'm kind of doing creatively as an outlet. Those two things can pull me out of anything. And I think back on the times when I haven't been so happy, those two things have not been a priority in my life. I've been prioritizing other things, whether it be money, the wrong people in your life, or, kind of the BS that you might be just watching and consuming mindlessly. There's a lot of good stuff out there, whether it be, movies, TV, social media, books, whatever, music. There's a lot of good stuff to consume, but there's a lot of easily accessible junk food for your mind and obviously your body too. Yeah,
well said. So if someone listening right now listened to all that and realized that, I could do with some change, they don't really know where to start, whether that's, their nutrition or the lifestyle, but they want to move more towards that holistic view that you just described. What would you recommend as a first step to that person?
It's this is, as cheesy as it sounds, the first step is kind of realizing that. So I honestly would give them a hand, because it usually takes people, sometimes maybe it's a tragedy, maybe it's something big in their life to figure that out, that they really need to make a change. I can think of a very specific time in my life where I realized that I was living an unhealthy lifestyle and I was deeply unhappy about it. And I think the main thing is to allow yourself, as scary as it might be, to be open. That is the main thing. To be open to hearing other people talk, to be open to the words that we might be saying right now or other people might be saying, to be open to change, basically, because it is going to be change. And as long as you stay massively open, you'll only have to take a little baby step. If you stay open to all the possibilities, and that might seem a little kind of daunting to you, nobody's telling you that you have to do all of those. Nobody's telling you, okay, go out now. You've got to start a new workout plan. You've got to do this. You've got to gallons of water. You've got to buy this supplement. You've got to do this. You cut out all these things. I would focus on staying open and just letting things come in. And the more good things that you let into your life, and that's like people, different foods that you might not have tried or you thought were weird. If you see it from a point of view of just like, you're open because it's an adventure to try something new. So if you're just trying, you're not committing, it's not scary, it's not daunting. You're just trying this new class or this new friend that you might have met, this new food. And the more good stuff that you kind of like let into your life, the more you let go without even realizing. You let go of the toxic stuff, the friends that are toxic, the habits that are toxic, the more that you, and whatever is healthy. But for me, I like to wake up early if I can. There's been times when I've worked long hours at night and I can't wake up early. But for instance, a nice healthy habit for me is waking up early. It doesn't mean that I've committed to anything, but a healthy habit like waking up in the morning, and instead of doing something like, I don't know, reaching for immediate cup of coffee or, cigarette or whatever. That's not to say coffee isn't healthy. I'm just saying it's healthier to wake up and have, warm water with, a little like Himalayan salt or something and some lemon to really get yourself hydrated. If you wake up and you're open to doing something as small as that, you'll start to let go of those other bad habits, and you'll start to let go of the bad food, and you'll realize that slowly but surely you'll have filled your life full of all these good things and things that are making you feel much better inside and out, that you'll have let go of a lot of bad things, because there's only so much room in your life and your day to consume stuff, both physically and mentally. I would challenge anybody to eat, a few bowls of broccoli, a handful of almonds, a lot of water with lemon or whatever. Try eating some junk food after that. You won't be able to do it. And I'm not saying that's what you should be doing, but what I'm saying is if you consume the right things, you won't have room for the bad stuff in your life.
Yeah, and staying open, that's a huge one. That really reminded me of a story that just happened like a couple of weeks ago, actually. A friend of mine, actually he's a client of mine, he's now a friend as well, invited me to a spin class. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll go to a spin class with you. He's since got a class pass, and he goes to spin a couple times a week, and he's seen a lot of results from it since then. Anyhow, so it's like, yeah, I'll go to spin class with you. And so we scheduled it for the next week. And as spin class got closer and closer, I realized I had massive resistance to spin class. I'd never been to spin in my life. And I was like, man, I have a lot of resistance around this. And on the day when I was meant to go meet him, it was like I was digging my heels in as I was walking to the spin studio. I realized that I had this, even without even realizing it, I had this identity about myself that I wasn't going to like spin, that I didn't spin. I wasn't someone who would ever enjoy loud music and like a dance party in a spin studio. It's just not me. I wasn't open. I was open enough to go meet him, but I was really hesitant. Anyhow, so I ended up doing the spin class. And I had the absolute time of my life. It was so fun, and it was exactly as I thought it was. It was a sort of ridiculous spin class with a bunch of pseudo dance moves on a spin bike and loud music. But it was fun. It was ridiculous and really fun. And I left that class realizing, it took me committing to someone else to go to that spin class. And had I not, it wouldn't have opened up my eyes to the fact that I was living my life with this identity that I didn't even know I had, which was preventing me from things that could have really added value to my life. So that idea of staying open, as you just mentioned, especially as a first step for someone who wants to bring in some of these qualities that you've mentioned of living a holistic life, I think that's such a great insight that you shared.
Yeah, I can completely relate to that kind of notion, because we are all, I don't want to say stuck in our ways, but we do, without realizing, have an identity for ourselves. And I think what was great about the story was, you were honest in the fact that you said, I went and I was open enough to go, but I wasn't open enough to be excited about it or really geared up for it. And that's kind of the greatest thing ever, because you have to be open, but you only kind of have to be open to jumping in. Nobody's asking you to love what you're about to try. And maybe you will, maybe you won't, but you'll definitely feel better for knowing. and that's pretty much how I feel about everything, about nutrition, about your relationship, about life, your career. There's things that I've done like 1,000,001 jobs because I'm trying to, fathom a nice way to, top up my income whilst, making moves here. And I used to feel like every kind of adventure that didn't last a lifetime was kind of like a little failure. And I think that that's how we're kind of raised to be. We're raised to be, you have this one path in life, and if you don't go this way, then you failed. And I'm glad that I've been to university twice. I've quit twice. I've also went over here and studied here. I've done countless jobs that I've left and tried to do something else. I've done little businesses here and there that have worked in terms of they've given me like, a little financial support in that time, but they haven't grown into a lifelong obsession or a dream that, that you might think it might. And that's okay. Every kind of little failure is a step in the right direction. So even if you'd have gone to spin class and hated it, I'm glad you didn't, by the way, but even if you'd gone to spin class and hated it, just the very idea that you learned in that moment, wow, I have this identity that is holding me back. And to be honest, that is something that we know, but is hard to remember. And you've honestly kind of like inspired me to go, you're right, I'm going to shake it up. A little while ago, I actually took some boxing classes, and as excited as I was about it, because I was really excited, before I got there, I felt like a 10-year-old, like, oh God, this is a new thing, this new trainer. I don't know how this is going to work. And it was nerve-wracking. And I actually think for the first like 2, maybe even 3 sessions, I was still a little nervous, but it felt great to do something completely different to what I was doing. And I think something that I would like to practice more often is that, I think I'm pretty good at there's certain areas of my life of trying new things, for instance, like working out or whatever, or writing new things. But I'm sure I know that there's maybe 1 or 2, I suppose, limiting beliefs that I need to, and I was like, is this a mindset thing where I just need to kind of, I don't want to say think my way out of, but, just kind of soul search to change that part of my mindset. But I think as you kind of like illustrated with the spin class thing, sometimes it's not about just thinking about, well, I should open up my mind, or I'm not that person. I want to identify as a different kind of person. It's about going and doing it. So there's some stuff that I've been kind of scared to do over the last year that I've been speaking about for over a year and a half now, and to commit to doing it, even though it scared me. It felt great going, wow, okay, we did that. Whether you failed, you did okay at it, you did amazing at it, we did it. And I think that's pretty much what life's all about. I think we just forget. I think we all do, that it's just about like trying new things and learning constantly.
Yeah, well, to bring it full circle, you mentioned why you got into acting in the first place was being drawn into that idea of play. And, we can get comfortable playing in the playground we're familiar with, but a lot of opportunities and a lot of joy can be found in playing in the arenas that we're maybe not so familiar with and a little hesitant or have resistance to.
I completely agree. And it's honestly made me go, okay, I'm going to go back and yes, look at the stuff that I want to achieve, but look at the stuff that really scares me. And there may be the next few things that I might need to tick off what I should be doing and, into a different playground, as you say.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Kim. It's been a really insightful conversation it's very clear that you're very passionate about pretty much everything you do, from your film to your acting, to the nutrition, and living a holistic life, and a life that's authentic, experiencing the full spectrum of emotions and not swinging one side to one side of the pendulum, as you said. I'm sure that people are listening and they're like, I want to be her first client. So how would people find you in order to follow what you're doing, follow some of the insights that you're having, and post into social media?
Yeah, well, my main outlet for that is Kim Cavell on Instagram. So it's just KIMCAVELL. And yeah, my plan is to kind of take on between 1 and 3 clients during this time, kind of as a challenge both to myself and to other people, to see what we can achieve together, and go from there. It's something that I'm very excited about, and I hope to expand on that. I mean, I already share content right now, but I'm always looking to create more stuff. But in terms of the nutrition and becoming certified, I am going to be reaching out and looking for clients to come on this journey with me as well, and do kind of like a 6-week challenge to see what we can do, and learn from each other, obviously, in that process of what works for different people, and yeah, go from there.
And if someone wanted to take you up on that 6-week challenge, how could they get a hold of you?
Well, you should follow my Instagram, mainly because I'm so new to the game on my certification. I wouldn't trust myself right now. So my plan is probably in about a month's time, I'm going to be posting a lot, looking for new clients. And the best way to do that would be to DM me through Instagram.
Perfect. And for your film that you're working on, you're bringing out in 2020, how can someone keep their thumb on the pulse of that?
Again, I post a little bit about it. It's a much slower process, so I don't get to kind of shout about it as much as I would like, I think, through social media. But I do post about it on my Instagram, like I said. But and also the website for it is www.prismfeaturefilm.com. Like I say, it's still in script development. It went back into script development. I'm hoping by the end of summer, it'll be out into screenplay contests. And if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that when I have to shout about something that I'm really passionate about, I will. Not in like a down your throat kind of way, but just in like a, dude, I'm so excited about this thing. I've realized that the more people you have involved, and not even in like a skin in the game kind of sense, financially or otherwise, the more people you have involved, the more fun that you're going to have doing whether it is creating content on YouTube, because that like, I've recently had a couple of people go, oh, you inspired me to do this. And as much as I hoped for that, I was like, wow, that's nice that you would actually say that to me. That's great. And I've had a similar kind of reaction from, I just posted a teaser for one of my short films on Instagram, and just hearing people be like, oh wow, because how passionate you are, but the more that you involve with the people, and just for the joy of involving them, it becomes much more fun and down to it, more successful in the end. It really does.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much, Kim. I really appreciate you spending the time to have this conversation. I got a lot out of it, and I'm sure everybody else listening did as well. So thank you.
Thank you. It's honestly been a real pleasure. We should do it again.
Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to listen to this episode of the Powerplantbody podcast. If you learned something and got some value, I'd be grateful if you shared it with your friends and family who would also enjoy it. To learn more about Kim's upcoming feature film, you can head over to www.prismfeaturefilm.com. That's www.prismfeaturefilm.com. And follow Kim on Instagram with her handle at Kim Cavell. That's at KIMCAVELL. If you'd like to connect with me, you can head over to powerplantbody.com or follow me on Instagram at The Vegan Trainer. And remember to subscribe to the Powerplantbody podcast so you know when another interview with an inspiring teacher drops. Now I'd like to end these episodes with my favorite quote. It's by Mark Twain. He said that the secret to success is just getting started. So that goal you're working on, that vision of yourself that you want to bring into reality, it's time that you go out there and get started.